And with that, we're flying through the update. So we will move on to the technology update, which will be given by Richard Petrie and Riccardo Verzeni. So over to you, Richard, first, I think.
Thanks, Narani. Yeah, hi there. Let me just make sure I can share my screen, okay? If you could confirm you're seeing that. Is that okay, Narani?
Perfect, thanks.
Excellent, thank you. So yeah, hi, I'm Richard Petrie. I'm the CTO at LINX. I'm going to give you the technology update. I'm going to share this with Riccardo as well. So Riccardo is going to come on and talk a little bit more about the portal, what's going to be happening next with the portal as we go through the first half of the year. So I'm going to make sure my screen changes. I'm going to talk through service issues. I'm going to then go through significant projects, which will touch on the portal, and I'll just add a little bit more detail to what Curtis mentioned in his CEO update, and then we'll talk a little bit about the portal and go into more detail with Riccardo. So service issues, we've had 3 service issues from the last LINX meeting where we got together, which was around the 10th, 11th of November. As Curtis said, unfortunately we're back virtual, but we did this one in person. But since then, 3 service issues that were of significant impact that we registered. The first one was over in JetX. We had across 2 days a single device, the Edge 3 device, which is an Edge Core device, rebooted on the first day, 16th of November, and then under investigation while it was in monitoring mode on the 17th, it rebooted as well. This was unexpected. We raised this with IP Infusion and Edge Core. They could not, even with debugging, find what the root cause was. So we RMA swapped that out, and since then the device has been stable. Obviously, while the unscheduled reboot happened, which was around about 4 or 5 minutes, members connecting in on that Edge device would have been impacted for that period of time. The second event takes us over the Christmas New Year period into January. We had a root server where fan failure. So this sent an alarm through. This is the root server 1 at our interaction site on London 1, and this sent an alarm through to our monitoring systems, whereby we were advised to swap out the fan proactively rather than leave it and monitor. So we did an emergency maintenance. Obviously, during the period where we had to power down the root server and swap out the fan, there would have been disruption. We did have root server 2 available throughout, which is obviously the backup root server, but BGP sessions on root server 1 would have been down while we replaced that fan during that emergency maintenance. And the third one, third service event was very recently, actually, it's just back on the 8th of February. So this was a digital realty cloud house. They had a power issue to the floor, actually the hall and the floor where we house our peering equipment. This was meant to be a non-service power maintenance, and quite clearly it went wrong. We lost power to both London 1 and London 2 networks. This was both the A and the B feeds went down. Started around about 4:50 p.m. so 16:50, and lasted about an hour. So that ran through. There was some complications with the UPS system and some faults on that had to be corrected, and this impacted around 14 members locally connected across the 2 networks. So of the London, fortunately of the London footprint, it's a smaller site for us, but obviously very concerned with the type of failure. We do have an RFO back from Digital Realty. It's not that detailed, so Anne and the team are going to be following up and going through that with them and see if we can get a bit more of an understanding of actually why we lost both A and B feeds there. Those were the service issues, and I'm just looking into the chat. There's no questions on the chat. So obviously if you're affected by the Digital Realty and you need a copy of the RFO, if you contact the NOC and Sean, I'm sure we can make that available to you as well. So significant projects, quite a lot happening. I did at the last LINX meeting 114, I spoke about what we were going to invest for 2022, and this was across our 400 gig, some cloud compute work we're doing, digital transformation, which continues, and Riccardo is going to join for that discussion, and security. And I'm going to talk today a little bit about all the projects that are happening now into 2022, which hopefully you know, contribute to us on those key areas. So I'll go through those first set of projects and then hand over to Riccardo to talk about the portal work. So this will cover network developments, IT compute services. I'm going to talk about observability, tooling, portals, and the IX API, which progresses as well. And hopefully, as we go through the presentation, we'll try and pull together how they all interleave with each other. I will just mention the ISO work. So Curtis mentioned in his introduction that we were successful. So we did complete in the late November, December period what was called the stage 2 assessment with the auditors, and everything went really well. We had a few opportunities for improvements, which is a terminology they use around investigating where any company can improve on their ISO setup. So we were recommended for certification. That has to go through a formal peer review internally within the auditor, and there is a bit of delay because of the impact of COVID and remote assessments. But we're expecting to receive a formal certificate in the coming weeks, and that's obviously a key success for us from last year in meeting that certification process. So the team worked, as Curtis mentioned, really hard in making sure that we put work in place to meet that, but not only just to achieve that last year, but also what we need to do this year. And as Curtis mentioned, touch on other areas, which is the telecom security requirements and some of the more formal security measures we need to put in place because of the regulations that LINX fall under. So great work from the team, but I think this year 2022 will be just as busy on that side of things as well. So on the 400 gig, we have a member, as we mentioned earlier, connected. It went quiet over the Christmas New Year period. Us and many members had a change freeze. So yeah, I'm just checking on that. Sorry, I had a pop up there. So thanks Steve for that on the ISO. Yes, so we had a change freeze. Many members did. We haven't seen any more orders on 400 gig. But as always, if you are a network that's looking to invest in 400 gig, please do come and speak to us as soon as possible. As Mariano mentioned, we've enabled that at 3 sites now, and obviously being at Telehouse, we have the ability to work with Telehouse to bring any of the Telehouse facilities into the 400 gig connectivity. So do let us know on that. We're going to continue to focus on 400 gig on London 1 for the immediate time. We haven't seen any orders as yet for enabling that on other networks. The next area that we started to focus on, and one that we're going to put a bit of effort in for Q1, some planning around Equinix. So Equinix Slough, probably about three years ago, had a bit of an injection for one reason or another. Had a bit of injection of members moving to that site. We made an investment at that time to add capacity, and we rented 2 more cabinets and put some additional bandwidth down to there. That's now coming to an end of capacity, and as much as we can do to augment that through the current footprint, we're going to need to do some substantial work. So we're in the planning phase at the moment. The kit is on order for us to do that work. A little bit of tricky timeline on kit, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but we're expecting that to arrive in April with deployment in May and June, which will allow us to then add further capacity, not just for this year, but obviously that will carry us through in the next 2 to 3 years as well. We'll also be doing a proof of concept on our transport network. So at the moment, our network out for inter-switch links, so between sites and between POPs, is all run on 10 and 100 gig technology. But as we're now launching 400 gig for members, we're going to investigate the cost dynamic and the technology for interlinking 400 gig between the data centers. Again, there's some problems on hardware delivery, lead times. So we're getting quoted long lead times. This is a research project. Obviously, we can continue to scale 100 gig between sites, but there will be a point where the cost benefit comes in at 400 gig over 100 gig, and the complexity of running n times 100 gig starts to outweigh the investment in 400 gig. And so whilst we're not urgent for doing this, it's definitely something that we need to achieve during this later part of the first part of this year, first half of this year. Then for London 2 and regional builds, we continue to see some great appetite, as I think Curtis mentioned, to Manchester and JetX as growth areas, and certainly we're seeing that, and London 2 remains healthy. The edge core devices we use today, the 5812s and the 7712s are coming end of sale, so there will be new devices that come out. This means that we need to do a proof of concept and an approval process around those new devices on there, and we're also going to look at the Broadcom silicon-based device from Nokia, which is the 7220 series, which is a comparable type of product to the edge core switch as well, and that's to see whether we need to put that in any of the regional sites. So we'll be going through another proof of concept with those vendors and those devices that I've listed there on the screen. Manchester, I think Martin presented at LINX115. So the last LINX event in November, we talked about Manchester, and Equinix are opening a new site in just north of Salford. I believe at the moment it's still being built. It is actually being a physical build at the moment, still going on. We won't get access until the May period, but we'll be expanding into that site in partnership with Equinix as we go through. And obviously planning is happening now, but we won't build out until the June time this year. We also expect to expand through the partnership of SDC. As Curtis mentioned, JetX is going really well. We're seeing 100 gig orders. Capacity is increasing all the time. We've got one or two other sites that the SDC are talking to us about across Saudi. So we will be looking and evaluating them from a build point of view, and obviously looking at how we get access to the kit to send out there, because we are seeing long lead times. So hence why we're evaluating these new devices from two different vendors. And that's the end of the quite why yeah, I just wanted, I was going to say, I thought I was missing a slide, so I just wanted to touch on some of the concerns that we have. I'm sure a lot of you are seeing this as well. We are seeing increased risk of on time to deliver for network equipment. So we're being quoted anything from 50 to 60 working weeks for equipment lead times on some particular models and some network and server kits. So whilst at the moment I don't see any problem in us delivering services to members, so if you're ordering services, I don't see any problems, but we are obviously starting to see some concerns about those longer lead times, and that's building into some of our plans and what we need to be thinking, considerably longer term than what we used to do, where we had 8 to 12 week lead time on some equipment. So just to flag that it is coming up, and hence I mentioned in a couple of those network development slides that we've got a bit of delay in getting access to kit. So that's the end of the network development investment. So direct investment in things that will be impacting the membership. A couple of areas that I want to talk about now, which are more internal, but hopefully do have benefits to the membership as well, longer term, through cost reduction, and also in features that we can hopefully give to the membership. So the first is our cloud compute strategy. So we are looking at, where possible, can we embrace public cloud services, leveraging platform as a service type benefits around and how we can improve our application performance. So whether that's a managed load balancer or managed database type system that's available through those public cloud mechanisms. Obviously, the benefit there is to improve our longer term cost modeling, which is a direct benefit back to the membership in reducing costs. We want to reduce complexity and start to enable some more advanced features around observability that we haven't been able to do on our current compute platform. What have we done? So I mentioned this back in November, and what have we done since then? Well, we completed a review of the main public cloud providers. I won't name them all of them, but the main players. We did an assessment. We have chosen to move ahead with AWS, and we're going to be doing a pilot scheme with them and using an AWS integrator to help us do that. we feel AWS has the greatest synergy to the skills and the hiring policy and training development that we have internally within LINX. That means that we'll get the best benefits. We will be evaluating the benefits of the hybrid cloud, so what we need to do privately as well as publicly, and that really is going to be dependent on what the telecom security requirements enforce on us and how that plays out. And so there's a little bit of moving parts there. Julian and the team are looking at that and how that plays out over the next 6 months, and we'll adjust our strategy, depending on how that develops. We do need to do a small investment in our private cloud infrastructure, so we've got some end of life equipment that we simply need to refresh, but that will obviously give us a platform that we can augment and integrate into a public cloud offering as we start to understand the impact of the TSRs on us as an organization. And obviously I'll give an update as we go through the rest of the year on that. So on top of that, as well as obviously we're going to be refreshing our computer estate, which gives us the ability to run all of our observability tooling. So like many companies, our monitoring has grown organically over the years. We seem to we've added a monitoring system as things were needed, normally tailored to particular engineers and needs over time, and those engineers move on and change roles and leave the company, and we've obviously got a collection of tools, some of which are really great, some of which there's a bit of a repetition and overlap. And so we started last year looking at how we can simplify that, reduce technical debt, remove some of the complexity, but also embrace some of the software as a service tools that are out there, off the shelf type services that we can use. But where we started to do some testing with that, we started realizing that we're having to put agents on lots of endpoints. We're having to replicate and send data to lots of destination points, and so tied in with the cloud strategy, we're starting to really think about, well, what kind of data do we need to collect, and how do we architect that data to be sent out to various data lakes or data repositories that can be utilized and analyzed by these tools. And so we're going through that learning process and study at the moment. Our goal is obviously to simplify and enhance. We want to have a kind of a collection layer across the organization that can collect from multiple systems. We'll have a data layer that then obviously can store strategically data on the short, medium, long term, depending on the type of data we need. We're going to build an abstraction layer so that we can then, any kind of northbound analytics platforms can then access that data through an abstraction layer, so we're not replicating time and time again. And that will then give us the ability to use standard tools that are off the shelf for things that we know there's no point in doing ourselves, but where we want to do some specific analytics around maybe peering use cases, which you can't necessarily get easily off the shelf, we'll start to put into place some tooling ourselves. Have the community concerns around RIPE's cloud migration plans been considered in the LINX cloud strategy? So that's from Tom. Tom, we haven't discussed that yet, and I'd be happy to look into that. So that I will contact you off outside of the presentation and certainly see what your take is on that. So that was just a note on the chat there from Tom Hodgson. So yes, so with the observation tooling, there's obviously a need to simplify and enhance what we have today to give our engineers the insight into the network that we need. But also what we want to do is we want to be able to scale, because we are expanding. I've mentioned a few sites, whether it's Manchester or Saudi or just growth on London One. We are going to continue to scale. We want to simplify the assurance process of fixing. We want to improve the way that the NOC can service members. So when you call in, when you chat to the NOC, and when you have an issue, your fix experience is improved all the time. And eventually, I want to be able to take some of those observation tools that the NOC have access to and actually build that into the portal and the IX API, so that we can give the membership, transparent insight into key performance of the network, so that you can make a decision on an intelligent decision on how you route traffic across our network and other networks. So there's an ambition there to make sure that we open up these tools, as we've done with the portal already with orders and self-service. We want to do that further with observation tooling as well. Just checking on the chat there. So I think Curtis has put an update there. So we'll follow up on that. And then Simon has, will the cloud instance be isolated, dedicated to LINX, or part of a general storage pool, i.e. current political issues and increased in DDoS attacks? Yeah, so just on that, I mean, that's one of the things that we're looking at with the partner at the moment. And we've kind of delayed the investment on our private cloud while we were going through some of the research, but we've got to a point where we, just because of technology end of life, we need to make that investment. One of the things that we're looking at is exactly how we embrace public cloud, and how do we protect and what is enforced on us by the TSRs, and what is it we choose to make sure that we protect ourselves for the membership. So yes, more work definitely is going to be done on that point that Simon's raised on there. So I'll just check on that as well. Yeah, so Curtis has just gone back with an update on Tom there. So yeah, a lot of work in the progress this year with the cloud strategy and obviously the tooling, and that definitely will come together as we go through the year, and I'm definitely open for people to give feedback in as well to our staff, especially if your company is impacted by the TSRs. So I wanted to now talk a little bit about the portals. Part of our digital transformation is that we want LINX services, whether it's observation or whether it's fulfillment. We want LINX services to be consumed by the members directly. We can do this through APIs. We can do this through the portal, and we can do this through partner mechanisms. So hence we're taking a holistic approach, and when we talk about digital transformation and services, we're really looking at the member portal that we launched and spoke about in November, the LINX API, which Riccardo is going to go into a bit more detail today, and obviously internal tools. So we want the same tools that the members use, the partners use, and the engineers use, all to come together and to have common approaches to them. So that obviously the goal there is to improve the user experience to the members. We don't want one user experience if you're consuming the LINX API, and a different one if you're coming through to the NOC or using the portal. And obviously we want to reuse any kind of modular workflow we put in place across our software that can be used for all those different use cases as well. Oh. Sorry, something just jumped up on the screen, but it's just somebody waiting to come into the room. So I'm just going to check the chat there. So I think I'm going to leave that with Mike has raised a point to on the right side of things. So we'll come back to that. So the member portal, and I just wanted to start. Obviously, you heard from Curtis about the lessons learned, and we clearly the introduction of Okta, whilst to us it was very important. I don't think we communicated that well enough to the membership, and I think we got feedback on that, and for that communication breakdown, I apologize for that. There's obviously very good intent on why we did that, and that doesn't take away from the fact that we didn't give the right communication. So we needed to put in a new authentication service, and we chose Okta as a managed authentication service. This is dedicated to the LINX and our membership. There isn't any kind of shared data there. We did test the whole portal experience, but very much in a modular way. And I think what we missed was that full end-to-end user experience from the point of registering all the way through to getting access onto the portal. And I think, as Curtis mentioned, he sent out a full update. So if you haven't seen that and you're interested, that came out to the membership on the 11th of January. And we shared that lessons learned with the NEDs, with the board, and we've obviously reviewed and looked at where we can where we can make those improvements. So I wanted to apologise for that on the communication. You know, we definitely needed to make a change. Obviously, with the new portal, it introduced features around self-service, and that meant that people within your organisations could log into the portal and make operational changes to the network. And so we made a decision that we needed to have improved authentication. The current, what was the legacy authentication, was built many years ago, huge amounts of technical debt. It was very bespoke. The people that designed it had moved on. There was, you know, no complexity in the password enforcement. Minimum length, I think you could get away with 1 or 2 characters, and obviously the, you know, very weak cryptographically, and, you know, no protection against password spray. So there was big holes in what we had, and we realized we needed to move on from that. And I think that was, obviously these were the main benefits for us to move away and move to something like Okta. So what does that bring? You know, for you know, as we go through, you're going to hear from Riccardo, you're going to hear from Mike on the marketplace side of things. It gives us the ability to make sure that we can link new features in very quickly. It gives us the ability to protect against spray attacks. There's also some possible integrations on federation, and obviously on different types of authentication in the future on biometrics and passwords, so passwordless. So lots of benefits. And as I say, it was just really around the communication on how Okta went in. But you know, we really think that it was something that we needed, the change we needed to make. I'm going to hand over there with us on the portal. That's what happened, and now Riccardo is going to go in. We've got an awful lot of work that, you know, we've still got a beta group of members that we work with. We've got a lot of feedback on the portal, and Riccardo is going to go through with what we want to now achieve and what we want to do with the portal going forward. So I'll just quickly pause there and just see. I know there was a couple of questions around the RIPE cloud strategy, and I think there was some back and forth with Curtis, so I'll just check to see if there's any other.
I didn't see any other questions in there.
Excellent.
Richard,
okay, well, that just, you know, say thank you to everyone for your time this afternoon in joining. If there's anything that I've presented on, there's any questions, as always, you can drop me through an email and have a chat. I'm going to hand over to Riccardo to take you through the next phase of the portal development.
Thank you, Richard.
I'll just stop sharing, Riccardo.
Yeah. I'll just start sharing 1 second. Okay, so thank you, Richard. Hello, everyone. I'm Riccardo Verzeni. I'm LINX Software Manager. I'm gonna talk for the next 9 minutes or so about the portal and related developments. So first of all, we're going to introduce what is going to coming soon on portal, what is currently worked on in Q1 by the LINX software team. Then covering the portal feedback loop, both for bugs and for new features. And also we're going to cover the 2022 portal related future developments. Start with the coming soon. So first of all, this is the order management system. It's a system we've been kind of planning for quite a while, but we didn't, because of the many projects that we did last year, we didn't find time to actually start working on it. We did find time with the prioritization to start working on it in this quarter. And effectively, that is a system that a bit similar what the network automation configuration tool does, at least the newer version, is basically consuming messages in the RabbitMQ, and have some consumers that interact with LINX internal APIs and basically are supposed to make modifications on, in this case, on orders. Orders are effectively groups of one or more services that have been ordered in one go. At the moment, Portal allows you to order only one service at a time, but obviously with the introduction of port access and the peering services being separated services, that pretty much every new service would require this kind of one-to-many relationship. So effectively, that will allow features to be exposed in Portal, like the one you can see here. So basically, in your orders section that you get in a new portal, you will have effectively your order with a status, and if you click on that, you basically can see where is my order. Basically, you can check in which part of the kind of provisioning of workflow is. As you can see in the top left, you have the order items details, and you also have an order log, which is basically providing you a list of everything that happened to that order from the moment that you actually order it till now, basically. And that could include many things, like if there were any error, or if there was any user interaction that was required, and if it was done, and so on and so on. This will not include the integration with the ticketing system, at least at the beginning, but obviously in the future, we're also aiming for trying to basically integrate both of them. There is also to be considered that the fact that the order management system is going to be limited, at least for the first version. What we're trying to do is a vertical slice of the system just for one service, which is the connection port unit, basically a port unit which is deployed on a reseller port. That is mainly due to the fact that we already had the backend for the automation ready for that service. And we wanted to give the experience to a complete end-to-end deployment from the moment you order the service until the moment the deployment is completed. And then obviously I'll cover that in future developments that we're trying to expand on other services as well. And we're also collaborating with again with the firm that help us design the new portal, so CyberDuck. We are specifically working on the redesigning the order forms for the new non-peering services. Now that we have, especially now we have basically a division between port access services and actual sort of logical services on top of those port accesses. That will be effectively two different areas when you're ordering in the orders, but you should be able to seamlessly transition from one to another. So effectively, if you want to start your journey ordering for a logical interface, and then you need to order like a port access because the one you have is currently not enough, or you want it somewhere else, or vice versa, you start ordering like a port access, and then you say, okay, let's order as well some logical services on top of it. On top of that, not just the ordering will be different, but the visualization of those services. Obviously, we're not going to touch the visualization of the port-based services. So you're still going to have your port groups, physical ports, and all the various logical port or logical interfaces in there, which are currently in Portal. But we're going to add an additional area where you could visualize basically the additional information of those services, like private VLAN, closed user group, cloud services, things like well, obviously private VLAN is like who's the other member, and I mean that's kind of information you see there. Closed user group is like what are the other members there. If in the future we're going to have additional functionality that we have there, obviously it will be present there. And cloud services as well, things like the cloud key that you're using for the service and so on. And obviously the owner of those services will be able to edit them as well. For instance, inviting people to closed user group and things like that. That's the current design we're working on, and we're aiming to get hopefully maybe not released, but on a UAT level by the end of the Q1, so that ideally we could beta test it and release it in Q2. And also we're currently working as well on revamping the events area. The very same one you used to register to this event. So it's going to include a much more interactive and more content-rich visualization of the events. Yeah, so that's currently what we aim for, to get at least let's say, a first version of it by the end of Q1. For what concerns the portal feedback loop, so the first topic is bugs. So there was non-negligible number of new portal bugs that was raised by NOC and member relations. And we kind of reflect on that. And basically, we came to the conclusion that much faster pace changes on portal and higher complexity of the features, because new portal actually has much more, well, let's say, much more complex user journeys. We need probably a more in-depth manual quality assurance process. And because of that, we're looking for hiring a part-time QA tester that will allow basically the software team, PO, to actually make sure that we are not actually introducing bugs in existing processes while we're doing that, because there's only a certain amount of tests, automated tests you can do for front end, and that's definitely something that we're looking to improve. And for concerning new features, as I mentioned, we're working with CyberDuck at the moment for instance, for the new order forms and service UI, which are using a beta group of user to test the design of those new feature with them, so that we get some feedback there. Also, there's been some nice to have requests that has been sent to NOC, for instance, on member relationships. We periodically review them, and obviously if there's something that is related to a feature we're already working on, or we're going to work on, we're going to add them if we think it's a good idea, and we can do it. If it's a small one, sometimes we just add them as continuous improvements. So we actually look forward to get kind of ideas from you. For quickly finishing for future developments, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're looking for expanding 2022 the end-to-end automated on-demand deployment for all non-physical services, including the integration of cloud providers APIs. So you basically are able to on-demand provisioning a logical service on top of your port access in minutes, ideally, especially if you require like access to third parties services like cloud providers. And planning to implement a notification engine that would provide notification of network events if there is something that needs to be communicated, but at the same time also requests from other users. Obviously, that would be very useful for peering requests or for the new services, like if it's a private VLAN or a closed user group, invitation to join or authorization to join, for instance, when somebody requests and the owner of the service can actually automatically say yes, he's allowed to join, and then automatically the service can be provisioned for the other user, for instance. And all of these could be tracked with the order tracking that we showed before. And finally, just what to mention, the IX API, so version 2, which would include point-to-point, private VLAN and closed user group possibility to be deployed by the IX API, should be completed at the end of this quarter. We basically, at the moment, we only have 2 pilots using it, and the version 1 is the one supported. Ideally, we're going to test with the pilots by the end of this quarter, and then if that's positive and there's no major changes, we're going to make it available. So basically, other user can start using it. We also agreed with AM6 and DKIC's new version specification that includes the exposure of statistical data, example, in-out traffic, errors, and so on. And we were going to work with our AM6 and DKIC is basically trying to get a spec signed and then starting implementation later in 2022. And that's me. Any question?